Well, hello and welcome to the MindScience Institute, and Richard Hill sending his what's been happening this week in research and investigation and what's going on. Now, I found a couple of things and I started to think about them and added a few together, but the one that got my thinking going was an article here in Epilepsy and Behavior by Andres Canna. And it's, is it time to train neurologists in the management of mood and anxiety disorders? Now, this seems like an extraordinarily good idea. Neurologists are terrific. They do a great job. But the people they're dealing with usually have something pretty severe going on in their experience. And how much of this is actually exacerbating some of the conditions they're dealing with? Now, this particular one, they were looking at epilepsy, and they were looking at behavior there. And they were talking about the impacts that that anxiety and depression have on, let me see, they talk about the response to pharmacotherapy and the anti-epileptic drugs, the tolerance to the anti-epileptic drugs, post-surgical seizures outcomes and from epilepsy surgeries, and mortality risks. Now, this is a very personal story for me because my daughter actually had a seizure. It turned out to be in response to an astroglioma in her brain, which turned out to be operable, and everything sort of came good in the long run. But she would come back to me and say, "Dad, my neurologist told me this and this and this and this," which were all good bits of information, and they were very reliable and very high quality. She said, "But what does that mean for me?" And so I would then explain to her, well, this is going to make you feel like this. This is going to make you seem like that. People are going to respond to you like this. And it was these helps, these assistances of how the neurology was important to human behaviour that was really something that benefited her. And in fact, I had a phone call from her. She was overseas at the time. I had a phone call of her having an anxiety attack. She didn't want to go home and upset her husband, and we actually did an anti-anxiety treatment, the process, over the phone. And to what degree and where else could she find that assistance? So this idea that perhaps not just in the sense of what this article is talking about here, about the improvements of responses, but perhaps it's just about time we realise that people going through neurological illnesses, and certainly things like epilepsy and so on and so forth, need to have that understanding. Now, there are a couple of things that came to my mind there. There was also this week, it was a review of the effects of exercise interventions on challenging behaviour for people with intellectual disabilities. So here again, a neurological aspect where all kinds of discomforts and depressions and anxieties and concerns are expressed. And what's the benefits for exercise interventions? So these types of processes that are beyond just the pharmacological sort of insights and achievements. And it reminded me of an article. I'm just trying to get the page up here. I've stuck together my pages really well. It reminded me of something from 2007, the Journal of Clinical Psychiatry, and it was actually a discussion between a group of doctors. It was brought together by Michael Otto, and I'll give the references. You can go and look at it, and it's really terrific. It's just these 6 fabulous experts on the nature of anxiety, of stress, of affective disorders, and the importance of exercise in relation to those. 2007. Now, these guys are all doctors, they're all neurologists, and they know what they're doing. Perhaps we should all be informed more about this. So those are my bits and pieces. That's the what's going on, what to think about, and this idea of seeing one paper and then maybe another paper and then remembering one that you saw before. This is the way we put together a good knowledge of what we're doing. It's about having the knowledge base from which to work to create collected amounts of information and then processes that we move forward with. And just one thing, a quick one. What's going on? Well, how about I blow my own trumpet? I've been doing for PDP seminars. It's in Sydney and in Melbourne, but I've been doing a series of neuroscience. So I do neuroscience 101, 201 and 301. So 101 is for those who don't know much, and It's the architecture and the biology of the brain and how it works. 201 is affective disorder, and 301 is psychopathological disorders. But anyway, I've got the 201 and 301, we're doing those together, in 31st of May, 1st of June in Sydney. Now go to PDP seminars and have a look at that, and maybe if you're in Sydney or thereabouts you might come along. But we're going to be in Melbourne doing 101 on the 25th of July and 201 and 301 on the 15th and the 16th.